Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Star Citizen and Squadron 42's total funding from all sources is approaching $1 billion. Now I'm going to delve into that in a bit more detail after this year's Fleet Week, so towards the end of May. But CIG have finally released their financials from 2023, the accounts from that period, and they basically also talk about the sort of health of the company and what's going on at the moment as well. These are a basic summary from CIG rather than some sort of financial analysis. They do provide some information and interest, though. I think they're useful. They also show that CIG, instead of making any money in 2023, they actually made a $20 million loss, even though it was their best year overall from player funding to date. That said, it's almost certain that 2025 will beat that, just because they're month on month that this year's been the best they've had. But anyway, we'll talk about this in a minute. CIG said 2023 was a very eventful year in the history of Cloud Imperium. Income grew again, up 9% to 143 million, with regular sales up 5%, subscriptions up 23%, and other income up 50%. So they say the latter owing both to the acquisition of Turbulent and a change in our operations as we intensified development in the UK. So there are big tax incentives for operating in the UK, and potentially grants and some other bits and bobs as well. However, our costs also grew considerably, arising from many strategic and tactical decisions that impacted during the year. Our costs, including CAPEX, which is capital expenditure, that's typically things like long-term servers, infrastructure stuff that allows you to run the business over a longer period of time, rather than things like wages or rents or whatever, which would be OPEX, operational expenditure. So yeah, our costs, including CAPEX, increased 26% to 163 million, driven by increased UK-led development, dedication of resources to Squadron 42 to push to feature complete, acquisition of Turbulent and adding those approximately 200 people and overhead to our cost base, and the largest CitizenCon ever in Los Angeles to showcase improvements coming to the game. Thus, despite increasing our top-line income by 12 million, we delivered a $14 million loss before CAPEX and a $20 million loss after for the year, using our simple cost accounting basis. The Turbulent acquisition, after inward investment and cash and near cash assets acquired through the transaction, took a further 2 million out of our cash reserves, but all of this was factored into our long-term planning, with all expenditure vital in advancing us closer to our mid and long-term goals. The change in our worldwide operations setup did see a shift in the composition of our numbers, with the UK and German studios focusing on game technology and development, and the US focusing on publishing and marketing, and Turbulent, hitherto run through the US but acquired through the rest of the world side of the organization, feeding into all these functions. Thus, the US side of the group reduced its overall costs, including CAPEX, by 12% to account for 33% of the total group expenditure. It was 47% in 2022, whilst the rest of the world side increased by 59% to account for 67% of 2023's cost and capital expenditures, compared to 53% in 2022. So yeah, sales went up by 5% to 119 million, subscriptions rose 23% to 6.5 million, other income grew significantly by 50% to 17.1 million, partly reflecting the service income and credits generated through Turbulent following the acquisition of that business in July 23, also partly due to the expansion of UK development and the related credits thereof. So yeah, CIG moving to the UK should pay dividends eventually, but obviously it was a relatively costly move. They have closed down their LA studio, which is going to save them a load of cash as well. But yeah, let's talk about some of these trading costs and some of these costs, because $163 million was the costs in that year, and CIG said 2023 was a busy year at Cloud Imperium. At the beginning of the year, we made the decision to move Star Citizen onto our StarEngine so we could take it to the next stage in its development and add and improve more features and content that we knew our community and customers were and are keen to see realized. Internally, we marked this as the end of the long prototyping phase we had been going through, and whilst not changing our open development philosophy, we recognized that this change in our development focus as a further step on the roadmap to our commercial release. As set out in my last report, we also made the decision at the start of 2023 that we needed to dedicate and ring-fence more resources for our Squadron 42 game in order to get the game feature complete by the end of the year. Again, a significant step on its roadmap to full commercial release. Hitherto, it was all too easy to divert resources earmarked for Squadron onto Star Citizen to tackle live issues raised by our customers and community stemming from our latest releases, but this was at the expense of the Squadron 42 development plan, so although an expensive commitment, the decision was taken to devote these planned and required resources to Squadron 42 in the interests of making solid progress towards our ultimate goals. I think it's very fair to criticise CIG for that sort of decision making. I don't think Squadron 42 would have been finished even if they had even more resources on it. It was going to take a good amount of time more because there's just so much they still need to get done. And a load of the work they're doing on Star Citizen also contributes to Squadron 42 work, so I just think it's a long development cycle for Star Citizen and a lot longer than CIG wanted or expected as well. But I'm quite happy that it looks like Squadron 42 is actually going to release in 2026, and Star Citizen is more playable than ever at the moment. The year of playability, they're actually getting a load of content in, which I'm pretty happy with. CIG continue. Additionally, as also referenced in my last report, we completed in July 2023 the acquisition of Turbulent, whom we've worked with for over a decade to provide not just the online customer and platform-focused web services, technology and support that we had initially engaged them for back in 2012, but also to tap into their game development talent that we had more recently grown with them and now brought in-house through this transaction. As if that was not enough, towards the end of the year we held the biggest live CitizenCon event in our history to 3,000 plus people in Los Angeles, where we were able to showcase new elements that we could now bring to the game with our StarEngine and demonstrated what those features might look like, many of which had been developed behind closed doors as part of our Squadron 42 work. This goes to explain the 26% increase in our expenditure, including CAPEX over 2022, with all categories up on 2022 except for CAPEX, which was lower as 2022 included the bulk of the investment in the rest of the world offices and facilities as outlined in the last report. Salaries and people grew as the acquisition of Turbulent took us to slightly over 1,100 people at its peak before settling down to 1,085 by the end of the year. Overheads now reflecting almost full costs in our rest of the world locations, to which we added Turbulent, also grew significantly and only contracted game development. That previously included Turbulent contracted services, but from July 23 onward did not, as this resource was internalized and did not grow significantly as other costs categories and will in fact fall considerably in 2024. Salary costs increased markedly outside the US, plus 44%, but salary costs decreased in the US by 20% following a 30% reduction in US development headcount during the year. Overheads rose by 80% in the year to 33.1 million. And this is for expenses such as office rental, maintenance, travel, accommodation, IT, and other costs that aren't included in other categories. Overheads in the rest of world category more than doubled. This is due to the purchase of Turbulent during the year, adding 200 people to the group and over 13,000 square feet of office space in Montreal, Canada. They also improved the facilities of their Frankfurt studio, which has over 30,000 square foot of space and came fully online in 2023. And at the same time, there's obviously a load going on with the Manchester studio, which added an additional 35,000 square foot of space. Contracted game development costs rose by 15% in the year to 12.4 million. However, because of the acquisition of Turbulence and them bringing a load of those staff in-house now, those costs will significantly drop, or at least be moved, because they still have to pay those staff. Publishing, operations, community events and marketing costs increased to 39.7 million, representing around a 33% growth in that category. This is partly due to bringing Turbulent in-house, but also that massive CitizenCon they did in Los Angeles. CIG did say as well, it's not to be surprising that this spend category is increasing as our game reaches a wider audience, despite, from our perspective, it only just getting out of the prototyping phase. It is essential for us to support our expanding community and customer base while ensuring player engagement in the rich environment we are developing. Therefore, we continue to prioritize investment in our services, platform, and community tools to enhance the Star Citizen experience, making it comprehensive, secure, and enjoyable. CapEx, capital expenditure, was down from around 13 million in the previous year to 7 million. This represents sort of expenditure on hardware, software, fixtures, fittings, and offices, and also kind of security and infrastructure purchases, hardware renewals, things like that as well. There is a massive influx of people from 2022, which had around 860 people employed, to now in 2023, we're talking about 1,085 being employed. Now, obviously, a big chunk of that, around 200 people, was from Turbulent, but they had already started to depreciate the headcount in the US as well. So I did want to talk about CIG's overall position and the sort of statement they made at the end here. In 2023, the group made substantial investments in strategic and tactical areas to progress towards its mid and long-term objectives. The acquisition of Turbulent brought approximately 200 people into the group, along with the associated overhead and related costs, while securing essential skills in key areas, gearing up and dedicating development resources, particularly in the UK, advance us to our release objectives, with the greater effectiveness that stemmed from this change in our development operations, but it did add to our costs. Thus, 2023 was a year where we expended some of our accumulated reserves to accelerate and further our business. So it's actually quite a lot of money, because it was around $20 million down in loss, which at the end of 2023 would put them sort of around 42.5 million in the bank, which is still a very healthy cash reserve. And I'm actually quite happy that CIG are spending the money on the game. Anyway, they continue. This investment bore through in the latter part of 2024 when we released Star Citizen 4.0, which included the initial phase of the server meshing technology we demonstrated at the 2023 Los Angeles CitizenCon event. But this was at the expense of regular releases throughout the year, and whilst it allowed us to end the year well, sales were only comparable with the prior year. At the 2024 Manchester CitizenCon, we were also able to demonstrate the roadmap and plan for what we believe will be the 1.0 version of Star Citizen. We also showed the progress made on Squadron 42 by playing through live a chapter in the game and announcing a 2026 release date. Yet, all of these factors require investment at a time when the macroeconomic environment is unfavorable and the games industry is demonstrating it is not immune to these economic headwinds. Thus, 2024's results, when released, whilst showing some cost rationalization as we bed in the changes made in 2023, will follow a similar pattern. So that is a big point they just made there. It is suggesting that there'll be, in my opinion, a similar-ish loss, maybe $15 to $20 million loss overall for that year, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, CIG continue. However, we firmly believe and are demonstrating that the investments we are making are worthwhile, and our investor shareholders share our beliefs, evidenced by their recent equity investments and financing as referenced in our 2023 UK filings. This funding supports the business and replenishes our reserves, ready for the next exciting phase in our life cycle. So I believe this took the form of around $17.5 million provided to CIG from shares and as a loan from current shareholders. Anyway, CIG say this funding supports the business and replenishes our reserves, ready for this next exciting phase in our life cycle. So 2023 involved significant expenses, and similar costs are anticipated for 2024. However, progress is being made towards our goals with a focus on achieving our key objectives. We are working toward delivering a high quality gaming experience and universe of substantial scale and fidelity, which is made possible through the support of our current and future players and community. So future players, very much so. CIG are looking to sell stuff, are looking to get more people into the game. You can see this from their financial model is sell spaceships, get more people in the game, sell more spaceships, and produce a game as we do that. 2025, very good for that, because it looks like they're making more money than ever, and it looks like this Fleet Week is going to be absolutely massive as long as it doesn't all explode. But yeah, the focus on playability and content does appear to have been a good one. They've put a lot of money into updating their website. There is a new storefront there that they've just released. Might not be a great idea to do that just before a major sale, but as long as it all works fine, maybe it is. With all of these, money to date and all the investment and everything, Star Citizen's pretty close. Well, by the end of the year, I think it might be approaching or past the $1 billion funding from all sources, but we'll delve into that after Fleet Week. obviously one of the other things is CIG need to sort of increase the amount of money they're getting, and they have curbed a lot of their expenses by closing the LA studio and doing a variety of other sort of streamlining things, but they wouldn't be able to do the $20 million a year burn rate. Obviously, they are getting towards a release for Squadron, which should be massive for them. They do want to do a load of advertising for that as well. And that's one of the big expenses they're going to have, doing a big advertising campaign over a prolonged period of time. And you could argue that's what they've been doing at the moment and what CitizenCon and that sort of stuff is. And obviously they're saving money on CitizenCon this year as well by having a digital showcase event rather than a physical event. Anyway, I thought those financials were really interesting. I'm really interested to know what you think. You're like, oh, it's all doom and gloom. Or yeah, this is some financials. I suspect some creative accountancy's gone on there, so it doesn't matter if it shows losses as long as they make money overall, because at the end of the day, they can just get that money back from tax that they don't have to pay on their losses. Are you excited for Fleet Week? Are you excited for 2026 and a release of Squadron 42, hopefully? Are you excited for Star Citizen 1.0 whenever that comes out? Do you agree with CIG's decisions that they've made over the last couple of years? Or you're like, no, it's all terrible, or I agree with some of them, and if so, which ones? I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Something else I'd love you to do is click on the links below for like NordVPN, or go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer, or best darn VPN you'll ever have. Probably. I use it. Click those links. Help support the channel. There's other links down below as well. Things to like THRUSTMASTer and Toby Eye Tracker and other stuff. I use all those products, and that's why I advertise them on my channel. Well, click them. May is about fleets, lots of dogfighting, flying with friends, and once again we've partnered with the Lunar Wolves, a Star Citizen organisation looking for recruits. Maybe you might be an appropriate fit. You can check the recruitment page for them down below. But we're giving away a fleet of ships. Commenting on any of my videos during the month of May gets lots of different lucky winners. The chance to win a Constellation Andromeda, a F7C Super Hornet Mark II, a Redeemer, and a Cutlass Black. Each winner will win one of those, courtesy of the Lunar Wolves. But wait, there is more. The Lunar Wolves are also giving away an RSI Polaris with lifetime insurance to one of their new recruits. Winners of that particular ship will be selected randomly from eligible org signups, but the rest of those ships, they're given away on my channel entirely, so you just need to comment on any of my videos to be in for a chance of winning. Lunar Wolves welcome all who share their passion for adventure and love of Star Citizen, and you can find out more about them on the lunarwolves.org webpage as well. If you would like to further support the channel, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that sort of good stuff. We've got join buttons under videos that help support the channel as well. You get some exclusive videos that are going out now. They've got Patreon, which basically does the same. We make daily Star Citizen content here, and that's partly due to the people that go the extra mile and help out the channel. I hope you have a fantastic May, a fantastic Fleet Week, and a great Star Citizen Alpha 4.1.1 experience.